This is Inside the Box by Henkelman. Each episode, we'll be discussing various topics related to Henkelman and exploring creative ways chefs and other food service experts use their Henkelman CombiVac. From sous vide solutions to food safety to innovative applications available with a CombiVac, we have a great lineup of expert guests who'll give us their unique culinary insight and how they're dealing with the challenges and opportunities in today's uncertain world.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Henkelman's Inside the Box. Joining us today, we have Jeff Fell, Senior Director of Culinary Operations at Quest Food Management. Before I introduce Jeff, just give you a little bit of background about Quest. Quest was founded in 1985 in Lombard, Illinois, by the current CEO, owner's father, Mike McTaggart, primarily a K through 12 food service management company, but they have branched into higher education and business and industry. Recently, Quest has expanded its footprint to Indianapolis, Detroit, and Milwaukee. The company was built around the principle of fresh scratch cooking in schools and continues to be the driving factor of success. Paired with intense personal relationships with all of their clients, recently ranked number 33 in Food Management Magazine's top 50 food management companies in the US in 2019. Jeff, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Duncan. Glad to be here.
Jeff, before we sort of dive into the meat and bones of what we're going to be discussing today, could you just let us know a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into food service?
Sure. So my background really started in retail management. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'm from a tiny little farm town. So, a lot of folks in my area, they just kind of pick something and they do it. And then I started to get in my early 20s and realized it just didn't really want to go that route in retail management. So I really enjoyed cooking. I remember doing it with my grandma growing up and really loved it and enjoyed it. So I was like, why don't I get paid to do this? So I actually packed everything up from I lived in East Central Illinois and moved up to the suburbs of Chicago, went to culinary school, and kind of got my butt kicked, not realizing what the food industry really was. I thought, it was easier, kind of like what they show you on TV, but kind of started, I guess, my food career in the casino world. Just started out as your basic cook and kind of worked my way from there, and then made a pretty quick jump to higher education. Followed one of my chefs and got my first kitchen that was my own when I was about 28 years old. So I was overseeing a dining hall, and then that expanded to 2, and then it kind of progressed from there. And then I kind of migrated my way over to Quest, and again was in the university setting between being a general manager and executive chef, both at Dominican University and the University of Indianapolis, until we kind of had this position that I'm currently in now open up, and figured it'd be a good opportunity to make a bigger imprint, not only with our company, but our students, the families, and figure out ways to, save money, write better menus, and have better food.
Excellent. I appreciate that, mate. Thanks for the background. I mean, you touched upon something which I think I hear from a lot of chefs, how they originally get into, becoming a chef, starting off in kitchens in the kitchen line and find out, it's not as glorious as you see on TV. And so I know a lot of good chefs who are not now traditional chefs, but now have other roles like yourself, which are outside in the kitchen. And they sort of, as they say, they live a normal life, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's super funny that, I was like, oh, I love cooking. I want to be passionate and cook all the time. And it was funny, the higher I went, the less cooking I actually did, the less food I actually touched. And it turned more into, managerial or that piece of oversight and numbers and spreadsheets. So it's just kind of interesting because folks still ask me, they're like, oh, so what are you cooking these days? And I tell them I'm not in the kitchen at all for my job, really, unless I'm testing or doing something of that nature. So it's just kind of funny how the passion was to just cook food all the time, and how it transitioned to not cooking food. But I guess I learned early on that the body can only handle so much, and that's a rough life to be in the kitchen, 10, 12 hours every day.
Absolutely. So you and I, or you've been talking to Henkelman for some time now, and it was more recently. I don't know whether it's the middle of last year that you came back and said, you know what, vacuum sealing, we may have a real need for it with everything going on. This was really, I guess, at the start of the COVID, and we'll get into that a little bit about how you're implementing vacuum sealing into your accounts and schools. But before we get into that, I just want to get sort of your insight, and this is what we've been sort of asking industry experts: is how are your challenges different from 2019 to 2020, now going into 21? How are they the same, or have the challenges completely changed, or is it what are they?
I would say they've changed completely 180, right? Back 2019, normal life, if you want to call it that. The challenge was, how do you decrease costs, right? That never changed. How do you decrease food costs? But how do you get more kids to eat, right? That's our model, right? It's in retail. We have to have kids come in. They got to buy food from our cafeteria. So the challenges were, how do we increase per capita on these students while reducing food costs? And now in I guess today's world, it was flipped, and it was, okay, kids aren't in school. How are we going to make money, period? And the government had passed a program called Summer Food Service Program. Luckily got kind of extended through the end of this school year, which ends June 2021. And we kind of found a way that it was a way for us to feed students, right? That was still very important, right? We wanted to make sure the kids got fed. Not being in school, a lot of students, that's their primary way of getting food, because they don't have the needs or the income at home. So really it was flipped to, how do we get meals how do we stay true to who we are with scratch cooking, but be able to package that in a way that students can take it home and eat it, right? So that was the big challenge. Was before, I guess, you went from how do you get kids to eat more by off the buffet lines and in a retail environment, to now, how do we get kids and parents to want to pick up food from us because it looks good, it tastes good, to keep that momentum up? But then how do you package that safely? How do you make it affordable without losing who we are as a company?
Okay. Yeah. So, and that's where you sort of started to, thinking on those lines. That's when you said, okay, what is available? What equipment is available, or technology is available to help us achieve that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we realized that there was no way that traditional models were going to work all the way around, potentially. So we started solution seeking, and that kind of fell on my shoulders over the summer. Was, what is it going to look like? How are we going to feed kids? How are we going to get meals if we were to do something? And it's kind of evolved, right? Because nobody really knew what was going to happen come fall. They didn't know if they were going to be in school, not be in school, hybrid schedules. And then this program hadn't really been extended until, it was sometime August before they actually made the announcements. So, we were kind of on heels of how things were going to go. But, my job was to figure out what is out there, and how can we implement it in a way that's going to benefit us. And that's, ultimately what led me back to, Henkelman and you guys. Our owner, Mike, had that connection. And I remember a few emails, and at the time it didn't make sense. But, times change pretty quickly, and it made sense to explore the option.
So, as we discuss, how you've implemented the Henkelman technology in the bags, and before we get into that, I just wanted to ask, when I'm talking to people in the food service industry, one of the things that they've been saying, is the growth area, maybe, or the only area where you're seeing much growth or any action, if that's the right sort of terminology, is in schools. I mean, so from the outset of the pandemic back in March, what's happened over that time? I mean, have you seen, has it exploded in as far as your workload? Are you doing the same amount of work as you were the year before, or have you seen a lot of growth?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely been growth, especially once they passed this program. Right in the beginning, it was just trying to figure out models of, if they're in school, how do we feed them safely? What would that look like? To the program being evolved, and now it's turned into writing more streamlined menus. How do we be efficient with what we've got? to make those menus work from a food cost standpoint. So my workload has actually increased because it's how do we continue to decrease food costs, right? Which are the one thing that we can really control. Whereas, at least in our market in Illinois, the labor market, the minimum wage has gone up. So you can control labor, but you can't. There's no decreasing the physical dollar amount. So we have to be more effective on the food side, which falls into my lap. So between writing more advanced menus that can be streamlined to our field units, I guess for a growth example, we started doing these meals back in October, and I think we ended up doing around, I don't know, a few 100,000 meals. And every month we've grown, about 300 to 400,000 meals. So, in December, our meal count was 1.1 million meals that we had served to students. So we're looking to target 1.5 in January. It's aggressive growth, but as more kids need fed and they see the program we're running and the high quality that we're doing, more and more parents and students are jumping on board and wanting our meals.
So, this podcast actually is called, Inside the Box by Henkelman. But stepping outside of the box, you, excuse the pun, is, you have recently implemented the Henkelman vacuum sealing technology with the bags for meals. How has that gone? How has that been for you, the implementation of it, and how has it been since you've implemented it and now sort of having some sort of enough time to see some feedback on it? How's it been, and then how do you see it going?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was a little rough, to be honest, because we were trying to figure out what it looks like, and just putting food in a bag. I think there was the initial reaction of what is a kid or a parent going to think just seeing food in a bag from a presentation standpoint, right? You eat with your eyes just as much as you do with your mouth. So, I think as we've gone through the process, right, I think, between the new implementation of the heat bags to finding a tray, and now we're at the step of a 2-compartment tray, I think we've made some progress together. And the final product now is very smooth. It looks great. And our users, I think, are much more at the account level. They're more apt to want to use it, right? Because they understand it. They understand why they're using the technology, from extended shelf life. Storage is a big piece in our world, right? Accounts that don't have the Henkelman in place are using traditional microwave containers that have to be upright 100% of the time. Otherwise, product goes everywhere. And they're very space. They take up a lot of space. So, I think the biggest thing that these accounts are saying is, wow, the amount of space we've been able to save by just being able to vacuum seal the food has just been able for us to increase our meals. Because I know some accounts have capped because they don't have any more space. So they've had to stop the amount of meals they can serve based upon space. So the program now, I think, is running smooth. The folks understand it and are excited to use it.
Well, just to give everybody who's listening to this a little bit of background. So, what we've been developing and working with Quest and Jeff is there's a vacuum bag. We talk about the hot vacuum bag. It's a vacuum bag. It's very unique in the fact that once you vacuum sealed the food, or you put the food in a tray and slide the tray in, not only is it recyclable, but this can then be directly reheated in a microwave or in an oven without having to pierce it or peel any of the film back. And so it just makes it easier for students to take home and reheat and serve. So I just wanted to give it a little bit of context to someone who's not listening. And you can find out more information on these bags. They're on the Henkelman website. They're CombiVac bags, and the particular ones we're talking about, the sort of oven and microwave safe ones, are the performance series. So, but I appreciate that. And then for the future of this, we talk about, the school year. This program will be run out for the remainder of the school year. How do you see it sort of going to that point? And then what other applications can you see for vacuum packaging for schools or maybe even colleges?
Yeah. So, obviously the initial thought was, let's find another solution for sealing meals. But long term, right, there's still the issue of reducing food costs. Labor continues to rise, and margins are razor thin in our industry. So, my mind really goes to, the bulk production and fresh foods, being able to seal things. Because a big thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is that, in the school environment, they're closed Saturdays and Sundays. And the next meal isn't, from Friday lunch to Monday lunch, you've almost got 3 full days. So if products get cut, opened, used on a Friday, and they just get thrown back into the cooler, potentially even just the freezer, the shelf life dramatically decreases. So being able to, throw your leftovers, for lack of a better word, or extra prep into, a vacuum seal bag, being able to pull out all of that oxygen and really being able to extend that shelf life, that is an incredible cost savings advantage that I don't think many schools take advantage of because they don't know about the technology. And so that's what we're trying to really explore and experiment with is, what is the return on the investment, of not throwing all this food away on the weekends by investing into some new technology that would be able to prevent that, um, as well as potentially saving labor, because then you're not having to recut things or products Monday that you had already done on Friday because the quality had gone down. So I'd say the long term, implementation would be for most of our schools for a bulk type system, as I said, and it could be anything from fruits, vegetables, soups, anything they're producing in nominal amounts that would be able to be saved.
Excellent. I appreciate that. And so from your perspective, what do you see the future in food service in schools? I mean, do you think it ever is going to go back to normal? Do you think it's going to be a hybrid? I mean, what are people talking about?
A lot of people don't. They truly don't know. And the funny thing is that the way that we serve food is actually safer than packaging it, right? Because with the viruses and germs and stuff, heat kills bacteria and viruses. So actually, the model of serving hot food hot is the safest way. But folks' minds don't think like that. They think something packaged into some sort of container is safest, but I don't think it's sustainable, long term, when you're feeding thousands of students, thousands, tens of thousands of meals every day. It's just not sustainable to, put food into packaging and have them eat. Um, you know, it just won't work. So a lot of folks are still trying to figure out what's the best model. I think colleges have already figured it out. It's instead of letting students serve themselves, it's having staff serve them still from a bulk standpoint. So that's not going to go away. It's just got to take some time for the trust factor, I guess, to get back there for folks to want to eat off of a bulk line, buffet line, and feel safe. So there'll be some things in place, and it'll be interesting to see people's psychological impact. But as I said, I know our universities have already, even through the pandemic, they just knew it wasn't feasible to just put everything in a packaging and put it in a warming tray and hand them out. So it'll be very interesting. I don't think anyone truly knows what scope and the landscape of food is going to be. And who knows, we've got one of our chefs testing your guys' equipment out and able to put things like, bread that's proofing overnight inside of it, baking it, to reheat, but then having a fresh baked bread. So will it be some sort of pre-order system? We don't know, but we believe that technology is going to play a big piece in all facets, everywhere from the ordering to procurement to production, and then even the packaging. So I wish we had a clear answer, but I don't think anyone truly really knows what's going to happen.
That's why my crystal ball's in the shop, so I don't know either. But I asked this question, to several industry experts in various sort of areas of food service, just to see what what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they I mean, because really you're in the front lines, right? And so you're seeing a lot of the stuff that's happening as it's unfolding. But yeah, I think you're right. It's a very changing environment, and it's almost, I feel, daily that you're getting updates that could impact what's going to happen in 6 months, 12 months. But we shall see, right? From a Henkelman point of view, the demand for our equipment, particularly in schools, has gone up in the last year. But not just in schools, but generally across the board. It's been good to see, and I think the fact that people, are maybe not demanding, but they want to see packaged foods has definitely gone up. And I think by being able to offer the sort of the bags that we offer, the performance style bags, the vacuum bags, it gives smaller food service operations the ability to package this stuff like the big food manufacturers do, right? But also offer a reduced oxygen packaging solution, which is basically tamper proof. And I think people, like to right now, as you say, whether it's right or wrong, that's what they want to see. They want to be able to see that, okay, this is packaged, it's clearly tamper proof because it's been vacuumed and then it's been sealed.
Yeah, you made a good point there with the tampering. That was a big concern. A lot of folks were, how do we know that this is safe, secure food? And being able to clearly say, look, it's a fully sealed package, put a lot of people's minds at ease. A lot of people were very worried about, it could be tampered with. What if on transport, what happens if the lid pops off or something happens, especially in the beginning, right? Because everyone thought that if you sneezed and touched a doorknob, 3 days later that your food would be contaminated, that you touched that doorknob. So that's a good point, that tamper proof is kind of a big deal to a lot of our clients.
Well, Jeff, listen, I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate the time that you've given us today. If anybody is looking for more information about Quest, what's the best place to, how do they find you?
Yeah, you can visit our website at questfms.com. We also are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search for Quest. Again, FMS stands for Food Management Services. To learn more information about either the school lunch, the SFSP school lunch program, or just more about our company.
Well, great, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks again for your input, and we will catch up soon.
All right, thanks.